Our favorite vitamin, B12. There is a thing going on now in the capital side of business, and it's kind of through the media, where it's become really sexy to get funded. It's become really sexy to talk about, your A round and your B round and your C round and the mentality of venture capital in the Valley and how we're thinking about IPOs and finance in general. But equity is an incredibly expensive way to grow your company. There's another alternative that we talk about that doesn't get the attention I think that it deserves. And for most middle market growth companies, it's a way better choice in terms of capital, and that's debt. That's responsible use of debt, whether it's to do acquisitions or increase hiring or marketing spend. Debt is relatively inexpensive compared to equity. So the example that we use, imagine that you're $1 million in EBITDA. You're a $10 million company. You're doing $1 million in EBITDA, and you need to raise $500,000. So $500,000 of debt, totally supported by $1 million in EBITDA, cash flows, no problem. But that same $500,000 in equity, let's talk about that. So let's say you get a $500,000 line of credit, and that's the debt use. That's how you would get that capital. Or you sell $500,000 of equity on a $1 million EBITDA company. So I'll be aggressive on the valuation, and I'll say you're worth $10 million, 10 times the $1 million in EBITDA. You're probably not. You're probably worth more like $5 million, but we'll say 10. So that $500,000 in equity is going to cost you 5% of the company. Now, let's say you grow and you take that capital and you use it the right way and you grow and your EBITDA goes to, let's say, $5 million over the next 3 or 4 years. And because you're in a really hot space, your valuation goes up to, let's say, 15 times EBITDA. So now you've grown your EBITDA to $5 million, and you're worth 15 times. That's a $75 million company. That 5% of your company now is worth $3.75 million. It cost you over $2 million for that equity. Now, the same $500,000 that you would have had in debt at 5% interest over that same 4-year span is about $80,000 in total expense. So $2 million in lost equity or $80,000 in debt expense. So it's about, in most cases, somewhere between 10 and 100 times more expensive to take equity capital than it is to take debt capital. When you give up equity, you can only give it up one time. I mean, yeah, you could have down rounds and up rounds and dilute people, but that equity, once it's gone, that gives that person legal rights. Even if it's 1/10 of 1%, it gives them legal rights, and it's gone. You can't get it back. You can't sell it to somebody else. Whereas debt, if you're using it responsibly, you can be in and out of your line of credit over and over and over again. So it's not even just the capital one time. It's the ability to have access to the capital over and over. So one more thing to think about with equity versus debt. When you have partners, and they have rights, and it can be a massive headache.